Hello everyone, welcome in. If you don't know me, let me introduce myself. I am the Kate next door, and while I'm a variety streamer, I do have more hours in Dead by Daylight than any other game right now. I'm here to go over a couple talking points that I heard in a debate that SpookNJukes hosted. It's not my intention to react with the same opinions as Spooks because his statements are very well stated. I plan to talk on some points that were made during the debate, which didn't get truly debated for lack of technical understanding of behind the scenes decisions made by the developers, as I believe, similarly to Spooks regarding naming, I will keep the name of this debater private. This is only a very small section of the debate. I will include a link to the full debate in the description below if you would like to go and watch it. It's very interesting. You can get a few laughs if you really want to go and take a look. Um, my desire to point this out is because I hear these talking points from multiple people, not just this streamer, and in my experience, knowing reasons why generally gives a more educated understanding over just an emotional outburst of frustration. So we will go over a small segment of his debate where these points are mentioned. After each one is listed, we'll pause to discuss in more detail. So let's get into it.
As far as you mentioning about the adept, I don't do the adept because it's already a headache enough as it is when most of the perks that behavior keeps changing constantly that
I'm
it
not sure where the
really
screen
screws up the
flickers.
gameplay itself because it just seems like they don't have a simple mindset of how to what a perk should do and it should stay like that because the decisive strike has been changed 7 different times throughout 8 years, and I'm just like, it just seems like they don't know how to what is the best decision for this particular perk.
So his point here is that when a perk is introduced to the game, that it should stay how they introduce it. This is unhealthy for the longevity of the game, as the stagnation creates gaps within roles, which can generally shift the balance from survivor to killer. Are all the changes required? No, they don't technically need to do massive upheavals of perks like there have been, but this is also for the health and longevity of the game. It gives players new ways to play the game and combine the perks while also trying to keep them true to the heart of the perk. I used to be of this mindset as well back in the 2019 to 2021 range, before they introduced challenges. Looking back, I don't think this game would still be here if they didn't, if they hadn't added those. I also feel like those challenges have broadened the views many people use to have regarding toxic playstyles. And I say toxic here in quotes because it's not always toxic, and we know that. But there's more empathy surrounding these challenges that require you to be, quote, toxic. I'd love to see challenges for killers to camp or tunnel or bleed survivors out on the ground. It would give to me, a healthy balance to the survivor challenges that have survivors using flashlights. So that the tunneling, the camping, the slugging, that is something that we do to counter flashlights in most cases. It would be interesting to see challenges that included that. Hey, just a slight interruption to my own video because I forgot to include this regarding Decisive Strike and how it's been changed. So it's been changed, and let me explain how it has been healthy to the game for its change. When I first started playing Dead by Daylight, there was a thing called juggling, where survivors would, when they got off the hook, or it might not have been off the hook, it might not have been related. I don't think it was related to the hook at all. So you would down a survivor, and if they were the obsession, the killer would pick them up, take a step, and drop them so that they could not trigger the decisive strike because it had a window that if you dropped them in time, then they wouldn't get to use the prompt. But each time you pick them up, they get the prompt. So you would have them look around, find a hook, and then take up to 4 steps where they would pick them up and then put them on the hook. It was really unhealthy. It was a very big time waster for the killer and the survivor. So they changed decisive strike to make it a little better. I'm going to include borrowed time in this example too. So, what was the purpose of Decisive Strike? Decisive Strike is intended to be an anti-tunnel perk. So you get hooked, you get taken off the hook, and the killer chases you and downs you, and then you get to use it. That is the intention. But survivors, even after they changed the perk that initial time, found ways to abuse the perk, so to speak. So back then, the generators and stuff would stop progressing as soon as you touch them, and Decisive Strike would not be disabled. Borrowed Time would not be disabled as well. Um, so you would have a survivor go and purposefully get on a totem or get on a chest or get on a generator just so the killer would pick them up so that they could use that Decisive Strike. So finding a way to abuse it, because technically speaking, if you're working on a gen or you're working on a totem or you're healing a survivor, then you are not technically being tunneled unless, you're being tunneled, chased by the killer as you're being healed or healing someone else. But when you touch them, you get rid of the possibility of Decisive Strike. Now, Borrowed Time, the intention of Borrowed Time was to help a survivor who was taken off the hook. And again, if you start working on something, then you are not being chased by the killer. Therefore, you do not need the perk to save you from a hit. These changes, again, they're for the healthiness of the game and to keep these perks true to what they are, because now these two perks, Borrowed Time and Decisive, are actually anti-tunnel perks. They work the way they should be intended, and this is something that I think behavior has done wonderfully and beautifully. All right, back to the show. So let's move on to his next point.
And another thing that drives me up the wall is that I don't think they even playtest their game when new DLCs come out, because when the Lara Croft DLC came out, there was a surplus of bugs that my viewers and I came across that was just so ridiculous that they did not foresee this. And like I said, I don't think they even playtested, because like it's really ridiculous that they would let so many bugs like pass with almost 1,300 people in this company. Like, you would think that they would playtest this before it releases to the general public, but they don't. I honestly don't think they care.
That's a
Now, you
falsity.
probably would ask me like, well, why do I still play Dead by Daylight? Well, it's like the game that I can tolerate I could say the most compared to other games, because they have a lot more bugs and glitches and that sort of thing. And it's just not enjoyable to play. As far as you mentioning about the Adept.
Oh, sorry, we went back to the beginning. Let's come over here so that we've got the points on the screen. Okay. Um, he is not accurate. Behavior does playtest their game. There is no way that they don't. However, because they only have 1,300 employees, not all of whom are likely part of the playtesting, it would take them more than a month to find the number of bugs that are found by the 35,109 average players in the first 4 days of release. I'm giving that kind of as an average. Part of this is that some bugs will only be found if there are large numbers of players bogging down the servers. Another part is that the amount of testing that would have to happen in order to pair every possible perk or add-on combination against every possible enemy perk or add-on combination, and it means the company would be losing money. So what happens is they do their playtesting where they find and identify all the bugs that they can until the amount of bugs being found decreases enough that it's reasonable to release to a larger player base, which is the PTB. Then they try to fix what they can from that data, but it still isn't giving them data on the scale of a live day in the servers. Now, is this ideal? No, I'm sure in an ideal world they would love to release an update with 0 bugs. Can it be better? Sure, but then you're getting into details regarding the cost effectiveness of further testing with fewer and fewer results while trying to keep the community engaged and the game alive. I think the developers do very well with the game as it is, and what used to be a joke about them doing a pretty good job so far is something that they have grown into. With the community as divided as they are, I can definitely say that they have done a pretty good job so far, and if they hadn't, then we wouldn't still be watching content about a game that has survived as long as it has. Maybe the identity, or maybe the entity just refuses to let this game die in this realm, but perhaps I'll be lucky enough to meet you in the fog as well. Take care, guys.